Egypt is one of those names that never really left us. Even if you've never opened a history book, you've heard of it. The pyramids, the pharaohs, the mummies, and the Nile. For thousands of years, Egypt has lived in human memory longer than almost any other civilization on earth. While empires rose and collapsed elsewhere, Egypt kept going, changing, adapting, and surviving. But the real story of Egypt isn't just about stone monuments or golden masks. It's about a river that refused to obey the desert, a people who learned how to turn floods into food, and a civilization that shaped how humans understood power, religion, writing, and time itself. This land, squeezed between burning sand and a narrow strip of water, became the birthplace of one of humanity's longest continuous histories, long before Rome or even before Greece. Before much of the world even knew how to write, Egypt was already building cities, governing kingdoms, and asking questions about life and death. What makes Egypt truly remarkable is not that it existed, but how long it endured. Dynasties fell, new rulers arrived, foreign armies invaded, gods changed names, and languages shifted, and still, Egypt remained Egypt. How fantastic. From the first farmers who settled along the Nile, to the pharaohs who claimed to be gods on earth, to Greek kings, Roman emperors, Islamic caliphate, and modern nationhood, this is a story that stretches across more than 5,000 years. Now, in this documentary, we're not just listing events or dates. We're following a timeline of survival. We're asking how one land managed to reinvent itself again and again while holding onto a core identity that refused to disappear. So, as we begin, forget everything you think you already know about Egypt, because the pyramids were only the beginning. Before there was Egypt, there was the Nile. Every year without fail, the river flooded its banks. It spread dark, rich silt across the land, turning dry desert into fertile soil. When the waters retreated, crops grew, and when crops grew, people stayed. In a world where survival depended on luck and weather, the Nile offered something rare: predictability. Long before pharaohs and pyramids, small groups of hunter-gatherers began settling along this river. They learned its rhythms, they understood when it would rise, when it would fall, and how to build their lives around it. Slowly, these seasonal camps became permanent villages. Definitely. The desert protected them and the river sustained them. This narrow green corridor became one of the most stable environments in the ancient world. As farming improved, communities grew larger. People no longer lived only to survive. They began to organize. They traded food. They developed tools. Pottery, stone blades, and early farming equipment appeared. Burial practices became more complex, suggesting early beliefs about the afterlife. Wow. Even at this early stage, Egypt was already thinking beyond death, as you can see. By around 4000 BCE, quick one, BCE means before Common Era. So by around 4000 BCE, distinct cultures had formed along the Nile. In the south, Upper Egypt developed its own customs and symbols. In the north, Lower Egypt grew closer to the Mediterranean world. These regions were different but deeply connected by the same river. That's River Nile. The Nile wasn't just water. It was a highway. Ideas traveled along it, goods moved up and down its length. Over time, trade connected these settlements, creating shared traditions and a growing sense of identity. Power slowly began to concentrate. Some villages became stronger than others. Leaders emerged, not kings yet, but chiefs. They controlled land, food storage, and trade routes. Surely competition followed after, leading to the formation of alliances and conflicts breaking out. And gradually, through cooperation and conflict, small communities turned into early states. Symbols began to matter. Animals, crowns, and colors represented authority. Early writing systems appeared, first as simple markings, then as recognizable hieroglyphs. Religion became more structured, tied closely to nature, fertility, and the cycle of the river Nile. But at the late pre-dynastic period, Egypt was no longer a collection of villages. It was becoming a civilization. Two lands, one river, and a growing struggle for unity. Soon, A single ruler would rise and bring these regions together, marking the true beginning of ancient Egypt as the world would come to know it. You can as well guess what's coming next in this documentary. Egypt truly begins with unity. Around 3100 BCE, the lands of Upper and Lower Egypt were brought together under a single ruler. Tradition remembers him as Nama, a king who wore both crowns and ruled a united people. Whether Nama was one man or a symbol of a longer process, the result was clear. Egypt was now one kingdom, and at its center stood the pharaoh. The pharaoh was not just a king, he was believed to be a living god, the bridge between heaven and earth. His duty was to maintain Ma'at. You may be wondering what Ma'at is. Ma'at depicts cosmic order, balance and harmony. If the pharaoh ruled well, the Nile would flood properly, crops would grow and the world would remain stable. That's their belief. This belief shaped everything. During the Old Kingdom, roughly from 2686 to like 2181 BCE, Egypt became one of the most centralized states the ancient world had ever seen. Power flowed from the pharaoh down through priests, officials and scribes. Writing became essential, taxes were collected, food was stored, massive building projects were planned with astonishing precision. So should we say that they've started architecture in ancient Egypt? I'm sure we'll find out soon. For now, let's continue. And then Egypt built the pyramids. The first was not smooth or perfect. King Josa's step pyramid at Saqqara began as a simple mastaba, a flat-roofed tomb. Layer by layer, it grew upward, transforming into something the world had never seen. It wasn't just a tomb, it was a statement. Stone, not mud brick. Eternity, not decay. Soon, the pyramids became larger, bolder and more refined. Pharaohs of the 4th dynasty pushed architecture to its limits. So there's our answer. Egypt already has architecture in them. That's massive. I'm impressed. Sneferu experimented, failed and tried again, creating multiple pyramids before finally achieving success. I mean, that's life and that's the rule for achieving success anyway. Then came Khufu. His pyramid at Giza rose nearly 150 meters high, built from millions of limestone blocks. No machines, no iron tools, just human organization, mathematics and relentless labor. Wow. It stood as the tallest structure on earth for over 3,800 years. These were not monuments built by slaves in chains. No, they were built by skilled workers, farmers during the flood season, craftsmen, engineers and planners. The pyramids were national projects fueled by belief and loyalty to the divine king. Around the pyramids grew entire cities. Workers were fed, housed and cared for. Their names etched into stone survive to this day, proof that human hands, not myths, built these wonders. Religion became more complex. The afterlife was no longer reserved only for kings. Nobles and officials began preparing their own tombs, hoping to join the eternal world beyond death. Texts, spells and rituals were developed to guide the soul safely through the afterlife. But greatness came at a cost. As the centuries passed, the Old Kingdom began to strain under its own weight. Pyramid building drained resources, local governors called nomarchs grew powerful, authority weakened at the center. The pharaoh's divine image began to fade. By the end of the Old Kingdom, Egypt faced drought, famine and political fragmentation. The age of the pyramids had reached its peak, and Egypt was about to learn that even divine kings could fall. This is getting more interesting. After the fall of the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered a period of uncertainty. Central authority collapsed, powerful local rulers governed their own regions, trade declined, famine struck parts of the land. For the first time in centuries, Egypt felt fragile. This era, later remembered as the first intermediate period, was not total chaos, but it was a reminder that unity could be lost. And then, slowly, Egypt found its balance again. From the south, rulers in Thebes began to reassert control. Through diplomacy, conflict, and careful leadership, they reunited the land. Around 2055 BCE, Egypt entered what historians now call the Middle Kingdom. This was not the Egypt of giant pyramids and god kings. It was something more mature. Pharaohs still ruled, but they ruled with greater awareness. Power was shared more carefully. Administration became more efficient. Officials were monitored. Royalty mattered more than lineage. The state learned from its past mistakes. The Middle Kingdom focused less on building towards the sky and more on strengthening the land itself. That's kind of funny though. Irrigation systems were expanded. Farming improved. The Nile was controlled more deliberately, turning unstable regions into productive farmland. Egypt became wealthier, not through monuments but through management. Trade flourished. Egyptian merchants traveled south into Nubia, securing gold, ivory, and precious resources. Fortresses were built along the Nile, not just for defense, but to control trade routes. Egypt was no longer isolated. It was now connected to a wider world. Culture also shifted. Literature reached new heights. Stories, poems, and wisdom texts explore themes of justice, loyalty, suffering, and hope. For the first time, ordinary people, not just kings, appeared in written stories with depth and emotion. Religion evolved too. The afterlife was no longer the exclusive dream of elites. Through funerary texts and rituals, common people believed they too could reach the eternal world. Osiris, god of death and rebirth, became central, reflecting a society deeply aware of loss and renewal. But stability never lasts forever. Towards the end of the Middle Kingdom, pressures mounted. Weaker rulers followed strong ones. Borders became harder to defend. In the north, foreign groups known as the Hyksos began settling in the Nile Delta. At first, they came as traders, then gradually as rulers. Once again, Egypt stood at the edge of transformation. The lesson of the Middle Kingdom was clear. Egypt could fall, but it could also rise again. Now, if you notice, this process happens to nearly all the countries we have today. Egypt did not forget the humiliation of foreign rule. When the Hyksos took control of the Nile Delta, they introduced new weapons, new tactics, and new ideas. For a time, Egypt was divided again, ruled partly by outsiders, partly by weakened native kings. These kings are weak. But from Thebes, resistance grew. Around 1550 BCE, Egyptian rulers pushed back. They adopted the Hyksos' own military technology, horse-drawn chariots, stronger bows, better armor, and used it to reclaim their land. How is it possible to use your enemy's weapons, and that too for your own benefits, against them? I bet the Hyksos do not know about it. Let's see what they did with them, as we'll find out later in this episode. Moving forward, when Egypt finally expelled the Hyksos, it emerged changed. This simply means one thing. The Egyptians used the military weapons of the Hyksos to defeat the Hyksos themselves. Only God knows how they were able to achieve that. But let's continue, please. So, this marked the beginning of the New Kingdom, an era defined not by survival but by power. For the first time, Egypt became an empire. Pharaohs no longer waited for threats to arrive at their borders. They marched outward into Nubia, the Levant, and beyond. Gold from the south and tributes from conquered lands poured into Egypt. Temples grew richer and armies grew stronger. Egypt was feared and admired. Some of the most famous names in Egyptian history come from this period, like Hatshepsut, one of the few women to rule as pharaoh, governed with intelligence and confidence. She focused on trade rather than war, sending expeditions as far as Punt. Her reign was peaceful, prosperous, and stable, though later rulers would try to erase her memory. I still don't understand why people don't like women ruling, especially the men, but that's by the way. Then came Thutmose III, a warrior king. He led Egypt's armies deep into foreign lands, winning decisive battles and expanding the empire to its greatest size. Under his rule, Egypt became the dominant power of the ancient Near East. Religion continued to evolve, sometimes dangerously. One pharaoh, Akhenaten, attempted something radical: the worship of a single god, Aten. He closed temples, moved the capital, and challenged centuries of tradition. The experiment failed. After his death, Egypt quickly returned to its old gods, but his legacy survived through one name, Tutankhamun. Though he ruled briefly and achieved little in life, Tutankhamun's tomb would one day make him the most famous pharaoh in the world. Later came Ramses II, the great builder, warrior, and master of propaganda. He fought powerful enemies like the Hittites and claimed victories that were at best carefully exaggerated. His monuments covered Egypt from Abu Simbel to the Nile Delta, ensuring his name would never be forgotten, and it worked. Yet, even at its height, the New Kingdom carried seas of decline. Maintaining an empire was expensive. Corruption crept into administration. Powerful priests rivaled the pharaoh in influence. Foreign enemies grew stronger. Internal unity weakened. By the end of the New Kingdom, Egypt's empire shrank, authority fractured. Once again, the land of the Nile stood vulnerable. But Egypt's story was far from over. It was about to be ruled not by pharaohs but by the world beyond its borders. The fall of the New Kingdom did not happen overnight. Egypt did not collapse in flames. It weakened gradually, quietly, and from within. Pharaohs still ruled, but their authority no longer carried the same weight. Powerful priests controlled vast lands and wealth. Local rulers acted independently. Corruption spread through the system that once held Egypt together. At the borders, enemies watched. Libyans pressed from the west, sea peoples attacked from the Mediterranean. In the south, Nubian kingdoms grew stronger. Egypt spent more time defending itself than expanding, and eventually it lost control. Dynasties rose and fell quickly. Some rulers were strong, many were not. The once mighty empire shrank back to the Nile Valley. Egypt entered a long period of fragmentation known as the Third Intermediate Period. For the first time, Egypt was ruled by outsiders. Libyan dynasties took power in parts of the land. Later, Nubian kings from Kush conquered Egypt and ruled as pharaohs themselves. They respected Egyptian traditions, restored temples, and even revived pyramid building. But Egypt was no longer set in the rules. Then came the Assyrians. With brutal efficiency, they invaded, looted cities, and crushed resistance. Egyptian kings became clients of foreign empires. Independence, when it returned, was brief. In the 6th century BCE, the Persians arrived. Under the Achaemenid Empire, Egypt became a province ruled from afar. Pharaohs were replaced by governors. Taxes flowed outwards. Rebellions broke out and were crushed. Yet, despite everything, Egyptian culture endured, temples remained active, priests continued rituals, the gods were still worshipped, the Nile still flooded, and life still went on, even under foreign rule. Then, in 332 BCE, a young Macedonian king entered Egypt. His name was Alexander. The Egyptians welcomed him not as a conqueror but as a liberator. He was crowned pharaoh, founded the city of Alexandria, and changed Egypt's destiny once again. After Alexander's death, his generals divided his empire. Egypt fell to one of them, and a new chapter began, one that blended Greek ambition with ancient Egyptian tradition. Can you imagine what it must have felt like then? It's more like seeing everything you were once familiar with take a new face. Now, even if you are not conversant with history, I bet you must have heard of Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great entered Egypt, he did not stay long. But what he left behind would shape the country for centuries. Because after his death, Egypt was claimed by Ptolemy, one of Alexander's generals. Thus began the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family ruling an ancient African land. From their new capital, Alexandria, the Ptolemies built one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Alexandria became a center of learning, trade, and culture. Its libraries sought together all human knowledge. Scholars from across the Mediterranean studied mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. Greek ideas mixed with Egyptian tradition, creating a unique cultural fusion. Yet, beneath the brilliance, tension remained. The ruling elites were Greek. The majority of the population was Egyptian. That's like two different worlds. Two worlds lived side by side, connected but unequal. The pharaohs still wore crowns and honored the gods, but real power was increasingly political, not divine. Another name you must have heard of when talking about Egypt is the famous Cleopatra. Now, as Rome rose, Egypt's independence weakened, and the final chapter of this era belongs to Cleopatra VII, which is the last ruler of the Ptolemaic line. Intelligent, multilingual, and politically skilled, Cleopatra tried to protect Egypt through alliances with powerful Roman leaders, first Julius Caesar, then Mark Antony. But Rome had no intention of sharing power. After defeat at the Battle of Actium, Cleopatra and Antony took their own lives. How sad. So, in 30 BCE, Egypt became a Roman province. The age of pharaohs in any true sense came to an end. Under Roman rule, Egypt remained vital. Its grain fed the empire, its cities thrived. Christianity later took root, spreading through Egyptian society and transforming religious life once again. But Egypt was no longer the center of its own story. It was now part of a much larger world, one that would soon change it forever. By the 7th century CE, Egypt was ready for another transformation. Arab armies crossed the Sinai, bringing Islam to the Nile. The old gods were no longer the center of daily life. Temples gave way to mosques. Arabic became the language of administration. New rulers brought new ideas, new laws, new customs and new ways of life. Yet, Egypt did not lose itself. The Nile still dictated life, farmers still relied on the river's annual flood, villages, towns and cities adapted, blending centuries of Egyptian tradition with Islamic culture. Cairo, founded in 969 CE, rose as the new political and cultural heart. It became a center of learning, trade, and faith, connecting Africa, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. Islamic Egypt also became a crossroads of knowledge. Scholars studied astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and mathematics. Libraries and madrasas flourished. Art and architecture thrived. Intricate mosques, carved minarets, and geometric patterns filled the skyline. If you've been with me from the very beginning of this documentary, you'll agree that Egyptians are naturally gifted with intelligence because even before Africa advanced, they are already into a lot of intellectual activities. Imagine studying medicine, mathematics, philosophy, and the likes then. They are naturally so gifted. Moving on. Over time, Egypt was ruled by a series of dynasties. The Fatimids, Mamluks, Ottomans. Foreign powers came and went, but the land kept its identity. Its people adapted, survived, and thrived even under changing rulers. The essence of Egypt endured: the Nile, its cities, its people, and a civilization that had learned over millennia to survive both conquest and transformation. Islam did not erase Egypt's past. It added a new chapter, a layer to a story that had been unfolding for thousands and thousands of years. Egypt's story did not end with the Ottomans or the Arabs. In the 19th and 20th centuries, European influence grew. Is there any way that the Europeans have not been? Napoleon arrived briefly. Then, the British control took hold. Railways, ports, and cities modernized. Yet, Egyptians never stopped shaping their own destiny. Nationalism rose, and in 1922, Egypt officially gained independence, though foreign influence lingered. The 20th century brought challenges and triumphs, revolutions, wars, and the buildings of the modern state. Cairo and Alexandria grew into sprawling metropolises. Education expanded, culture thrived, and the Nile, as it had for thousands of years, continued to give life to the land. Today, Egypt is a living bridge between past and present. Its monuments remind the world of human ambition. Its people carry traditions that stretch back millennia, and the lessons of endurance, adaptation, and resilience still echo along the banks of the Nile. From the first farmers who settled its fertile banks, to the pharaohs who built monuments to eternity, to modern Egypt, facing the challenges of a new century. This is the entire beautiful history of Egypt. Thank you for sticking around till the end of this documentary. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, beautiful viewers.